On the grassroots level, there will be a lot of commemoration. You will find it particularly in local communities and in campuses, and you might find some coverage in some media outlets. This is a new phenomenon. We are seeing a much bigger Palestinian presence as a result of the proliferation of social media.
Yes.
And now we have Palestinian influencers and other public figures that are able to kind of talk about our issues, including the Nakba.
The United States support for the Israeli occupation state, despite its violation of Palestinians' human rights and disregard of all United Nations and international resolutions and conventions, continues unabashed. The Palestinian community in the United States and the pro-Palestinian rights activists try to make a change in the state's policy and attract the American administration attention to the rights of the Palestinian people. Would this change be accomplished, or it remains mission impossible? To discuss that, I have with me from the United States Professor Abdelrazak Takriti, who is Mahmoud Darwish Visiting Chair in Palestinian Studies at Brown University and founding director of the Center for Arab Studies at the University of Houston. Welcome to our program, Professor.
Thank you very much.
Professor, in light of the blatant Israeli occupation violations of the Palestinians' rights, and just yesterday, all the world heard about the Palestinian prisoner, Khader Adnan, who was kept starving to death inside the Israeli prisons. How these violations by Israel have their echo, how they get highlighted in the American community, please?
So I think we need to think about these issues structurally. When it comes to the media landscape, the current American mainstream news outlets do not tend to report favorably on Palestinian issues. We have achieved some successes in recent years in getting some stories to some mainstream media outlets. However, for the most part, they are still incredibly pro-Israel when it comes to their overall outlook. A change is happening, but it's taking a long time. On the right wing of the mainstream media spectrum, you have Fox News, which is very opposed to the Palestinian people and does not report favorably on cases like those of Sheikh Khader Adnan or others. They present Israeli colonialism in a positive light. They present the Israeli state as a great achievement for humanity, as a beacon of progress and development, and so on and so forth. They do not talk about Palestinians in anything but negative and disparaging terms. So we have a problem on the right wing of the American media spectrum. When it comes to the more liberal media outlets, the discourse around Palestinians is less extreme, and we do have now some Palestinian spokespeople being invited every once in a while, but still the overall perception that a viewer would get is a favorable one in relation to the state of Israel. We are making some successes, but we have to put them in perspective.
Yes.
And we have to have a measure of the success we have, because one thing that I want to be clear about is that these processes are long-term processes. Change cannot come in a day or two in a country where Zionist efforts have been built and have continued to develop for almost a century now. So,
yes.
So we need to be very focused on that point. And realize that, yes, there's a lot of good work going on, but we will reap the fruits later, not now, possibly.
Yes.
Where we have some progress is on the grassroots level. And there, a considerable change is happening, especially amongst younger people in the United States. I'm a college professor, so I see it. Whenever I lecture on any campus, you notice a much greater level of engagement on the part of students. You notice the rise of Students for Justice in Palestine branches in almost every major U.S. campus. And some of these campuses It is the most active student organization on campus, and sometimes the most visible. You have the rise of different student movements. You have the growth of intersectional work with African American movements, Latinx movements, different sections of society. That is producing results amongst younger people.
Yes, so the line is clear between the public opinion and the official level. Just days ago, the Speaker of the House of Representatives, McCarthy, was visiting Israel, and he praised Israel as the beacon of democracy in the Middle East and so on. And he warned the American President Biden, if you don't invite the Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu to Washington, D.C., the Congress would do that. So how do you read such statements by the Speaker of the Congress? Your take on that, Dr. Abdel Razak?
Well, it's opportunism on his part and on the part of the Israeli government. He knows that he could use them to gain favor with his base, particularly the evangelical sections of his base, who are very committed to the notion of Israeli dominance in the region. And of course, he's committed to his donor base as well, which is also committed to preventing Palestinians from gaining their rights. At the same time, Netanyahu has been playing this game for a long time. Using the fact that Israel has unparalleled support in those circles, particularly now in the Republican Party, in the post George W. Bush era. The Republican Party has become basically the most committed arena for Israeli support in the United States. So they have a strong base there, and they will use it. Now, amongst the Democrats, let's not be illusory about this. It's not like Biden is a supporter of the Palestinian people, but he's just less committed to the current Israeli government's agenda.
Yes.
So overall, his pro-Zionist policies, his pro-Zionist expansionism. He loves Israel. Biden. He expresses that. He has a base that also he needs to appease on that question, but they're less extreme in their outlook, even though I still consider it to be an extreme outlook, in the sense that any outlook that does not serve the cause of justice and humanity, and that does not serve the cause of liberation, is an extreme outlook. It's an outlook that prevents people from gaining their freedom.
Yeah, and Professor Abrazak, sometimes it's very difficult really to understand the American politics and the American political attitude when it comes to Israel-Palestine. The State Secretary Blinken, for example, visited the Palestinian territories many times, and he met with Palestinian government officials, with Palestinian presidency, with Palestinian NGOs and CPOs, and he heard about the Israeli violations in terms of killing Palestinian children, chopping Palestinian olive trees, home demolition, and so on. And before the media, he announces the American support for the Palestinians' right to independence and the statehood. But on the ground, we see all the support for Israel that acts in contravention to the American political attitude vis-a-vis the Israeli-Palestinian conflict. So how do you understand such policy?
Well, first of all, I think that anybody that expresses support for statehood is not serious about supporting Palestinians, actually. And this is something that I think the audience in Palestine needs to understand. Because if you're pro-Palestinian, you need to talk about what specific rights you're working on, and not vague notions like I support an independent Palestinian state. So the questions for him will be, what does a state mean? What does it mean also for the people of Jerusalem? What does it mean for the settlements? What does it mean for our people in 48? What does it mean for the refugees? All of these different dimensions are not specified when people make statements like that. they're easy statements to make. They just don't mean much. They're often talking about this notion without reference to any genuine sovereignty. It's in a way the old discourse of the old Israeli Labor Party era.
Yeah.
Okay, it's the Shimon Peres discourse. All right, but the problem is it does not serve the Palestinian people, because what these people are doing at the same time is funding the Israeli colonial project from the river to the sea. They're funding the Israeli military across this part of the world, and they're also supporting Israel diplomatically in very substantial ways and preventing serious condemnation of its policies. And look, the other day we had a very big event that happens in the United States regularly, where all the press meets in Washington, and people talk about journalists. And usually in a meeting like that, if you had a murdered American journalist like Shireen Abu Akleh, you would have had a discussion of her had she not been Palestinian. There would have been possibly a moment of silence. There would have been definitely references, but here we are, no discussion. So,
yes.
So I think it's very important to realize that statements don't mean much when you're in a policy environment that is quite anti-Palestinian. Now, where the change is happening on the official level and on the higher level is that now we have some Palestinian members of Congress. We have one, and we have a few people on the left of the Democratic Party, known as the Squad, of course. I'm sure your viewers are aware of them. They're making some changes. They've been writing letters to the administration. In fact, Jamal Bowman has written an excellent letter, and there are several co-signatories to it from this group of active Congress people. And it's supported, of course, by Senator Bernie Sanders as well. So this group has been trying and has been asking the Biden administration to take more serious steps. Is the administration actually doing that? I don't think so. So people need to be, we cannot put hopes on an administration.
Yes,
we have to build capacity for change in this country first.
Yes, Professor Abdelrazak. And just 10 days, 11 days from now, the Palestinian people in the diaspora and in occupied Palestine are going to commemorate the 75th anniversary of the catastrophe, the Palestinian Nakba. How would this be perceived by the American government and the American public in the United States, as I'm sure the Palestinian American community there are going to commemorate this sad anniversary?
Well, I think that what you will see is a similar situation on the upper levels and upper echelons of the U.S. political system. What you will find is a celebration of the Nakba. You will find them celebrating Israel at 75. They've already been organizing a range of events to do that, and these are completely, of course, aggressive events against the Palestinian people, because they disrespect the experience of that people. They do not acknowledge this dispossession. They do not acknowledge the death and destruction and colonialism that took place in this part of the world, and that continues to take place. So you have this problem at the one level, at the higher levels of the upper echelons of the American system. You have that, and there are, of course, attempts to challenge that. Congresswoman Rashida Tlaib, who is, of course, of Palestinian origin, has put a resolution a while back to confront Nakba denialism and to commemorate the Nakba officially. The resolution has not been adopted yet by Congress, but it's a step forward that at least there is a resolution on the books. However, on the grassroots level, there will be a lot of commemoration. You will find it particularly in local communities and in campuses, and you might find some coverage in some media outlets. This is a new phenomenon. We are seeing a much bigger Palestinian presence as a result of the proliferation of social media.
Yes,
And now we have some Palestinian influencers and other public figures that are able to kind of talk about our issues, including the Nakba there.
yes. My final question to you, Professor Abdelrazak, you know that the Republicans and the Democrats began preparing for the 24th presidential elections in the United States. Now, if we assume that the Republicans are going to be back to the government, they are going to win, and maybe Trump would be the head of the party, the Republican Party in these elections, do you think that they are going to give Israel the green light to draw the final shape of the Palestinian territories? I mean, to keep no space for any satisfying solution for the Palestinian cause. No statehood, no justice.
Well, I think we're already almost there. I mean, the real question now is not whether the territorial map has been drawn. It kind of has been drawn. What has been drawn is a collection of disjointed Bantustans, and anybody who has been to the West Bank or knows how to read maps even will realize that. So this is the reality. The only question is when it comes to the Republican side, they increase the pressure further because there's a greater push for expansion. What they're doing is and here's the bit that I think our viewers need to focus on. We need a shift in Palestinian political discourse. We need to stop living in illusion. There is no state project on the part of the United States. There is no serious interest in establishing a Palestinian state. What there is two parties. One that is pushing for further Israeli colonization and expansion, and one that is pushing for a more incremental expansion of the Israeli colonial project. I mean, or maybe they're pushing the Israelis, amongst the best out of them are pushing the Israelis to calm down and not expand anymore. So there's no policy of reversing the expansion that took place.
Yeah.
So this is, we need to look at these things. We need to think about it in territorial terms. We need to think about it in concrete terms. That's what the Israelis do, by the way. They think about it inch by inch, kilometer by kilometer.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Don't think in terms of abstract terms like statehood or they're happy to say the Israelis talk sometimes about, oh yeah, we want a Palestinian state, but we just don't have a Palestinian partner to achieve that with. Okay.
You're right.
So they don't mind the abstract discourse, but the practical reality is, what are we doing about preventing expansion of this project? And eventually, if you're Palestinian, you want that project to retreat, not just to halt. So is there somebody in the United States who's willing to work on that? Yes, but not at the upper levels of the administration. That's why how we deal with them when it comes to the official Palestinian line will be very important. And I think there needs to be a greater level of diplomatic boldness on the part of Palestinian policymakers. I was really happy to see for the first time in a long time to see an official PLO letter pushing back against the claims of, for example, the European Union when they were celebrating 75th anniversary of the State of Israel. It was good that the PA Ministry of Foreign Affairs put out the letter criticizing that. That's a good step forward. We need to see more of that.
Yeah.
Because you can't have a situation where we're just waiting for these foreign powers who do not care for our people and who are much more answerable to Israeli constituencies and to pro-Israel constituencies in their own countries. Okay, we cannot count on them to be supporters of our people. There's a margin of diplomacy that we could pursue with them, but we have to be very clear about our own anti-colonial project and about reclaiming an anti-colonial vision that is concerned with reversing this expansionism that is taking place every day in our homeland and against our people.
Professor Abdelrazak Takriti, founder director of the Center for Arab Studies at Houston University. It has been a great honor, really, having you on our program. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I'm honored to be in conversation with you, Sam.
Thank you. And ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much for watching. And from me, Usama Nazal, have a nice time.